Well, so keeping our focus there, and Tunji Abayomi joins us as a legal practitioner. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the show at this time. You've watched how this scenario has developed up to this time. So just yesterday, as a matter of fact, between yesterday and day before, the fuel queues had almost completely vanished. But this morning, the story is different. They're building up again. What do you think is happening?
Well, I think the main problem is the lack of prediction, unpredictability of policies and challenges. Well, I think the expectation of most of the people in this country, yes, it is understood that we have to go through abnormal times judged by the past experiences of the citizens of the nation. I'm talking of the experience revealed to us at the beginning of this government. But I think the expectation also is that some necessary steps will be taken to reduce the burden of the people, particularly at crucial times as December. I think that the failure of predictable effort or to foresee the future, the unforeseeability demonstrated by NNPC and perhaps the government itself is responsible for the tragedy that we actually face this December.
Do you think it's right for the NNPC to be the sole importer of petrol?
I don't think so. But the problem also is that we got to that point because of the grave irresponsibility of marketers who took advantage of the freedom of the market to abuse privileges and also to take advantage of public interest and the wealth of the nation to the disadvantage of the ordinary citizens. I think the government is basically faced between the devil and the deep blue sea. And I think that it was compelled to take an emergency step, at least to retreat. Ad interim, I would say, the terrible, because if we had continued with the regime of subsidies that was in the past, perhaps the nation will have absolutely no money to do anything by now. I believe that the government suddenly found itself trapped in coming into power. Obviously, they anticipated, they had good intentions of moving this nation forward, and the government is trying. But it found itself trapped in an abnormal situation, great abnormal situation. The president touched on it occasionally. This is the situation. So now that we have NNPC doing it, I believe it will be an interim measure until structures are set in place to control the appetite of businessmen who see the goodness of this nation as basically as a merchandise to the detriment of the people.
So we're at this point now where the NNPC, this is the rules. NNPC, it used to be 60% importation by the independent marketers and 40% to the government. Yes. Well, that has changed now. Right. It's now 60% to the government and 40% to the marketers. But the marketers don't even have that forex to import this petrol. If you talk about foresight and the ability to predict, didn't the government entity, the NNPC, for instance, see that if we make this shift and the dollars doesn't get to the independent marketers, we'll be left to be the only ones? Do you think that was a strategy on the part of government to push the independent marketers aside?
Well, if I don't believe it's a permanent strategy. I believe it's a strategy ad interim, because the chaos, the confusion, the corruption in the oil sector was greatly abnormal. As you can see, all the revelations. And it is also sad that the independent marketers participated actively, almost without conscience, in this disorder, in this neurosis. Considering that this is the most essential wealth of this nation and the source of all development efforts, largely the foundation of wealth for development effort, I believe the government decided to experiment, or you might call it a period of testing, to see if we can adopt a different strategy. Because I mean, it is said that you cannot continue to do things the same way and expect a different result. Abraham Lincoln said that if you want to make a difference, you have to burn and task for distinction instead of walking on a beaten path. So the truth of the matter is that, like I said, I believe that this nation, the normal people of Nigeria, will have to live through a period of an abnormal period of time, maybe for a number of years, before they begin to enjoy some level of security in the expectation of, that's what I think. Because if we look at the situation, in December last year, we didn't have fuel crisis. And from January until now, there was some level of stability in the whole system. But now, we are shocked, literally. I was in Akure, I came just last night. I was in Akure for 1 week. I didn't have electricity, there was no light, no power. I also didn't have fuel to power the generator. I mean, it's really a terrible experience.
So you enjoy the natural light through the period in Akure.
I enjoy natural darkness.
All right, yeah, let's look at some of these things. Now, you just said something earlier. You said the marketers are partakers of this hardship being meted out to Nigerians. Let's step back a bit and look at the promises made by this government during the campaigns. And one of those was to end perennial fuel scarcity, to provide power, 6,000 megawatts, I think. They said we've gone beyond 6,000 megawatts. They also talked about employment, creating jobs and all that. In your assessment, do you think some of these promises have been met?
No, they haven't been met, but there's effort towards meeting them. Definitely they haven't been met.
How would you grade those efforts? If you can break them down.
I think at this point we are like about 47. Yes. In terms of meeting them. But in terms of making effort, we are like 70.
Why do you say so?
Well, if you look at, first of all, you take the economy. I have said it even in this particular channel that the greatest problem this nation has is not poverty. All men know something about poverty. It's also not about wealth. This nation is endowed, but it is the management of God-given wealth and resources to this nation. And what actually underdeveloped Nigeria are the governments of Nigeria. The governments of Nigeria, underdeveloped Nigeria, managed by highly irresponsible leaders. If we can tame the appetite of government and reorganize it and reduce corruption, which, if we will recall, in this your station, I have said that in Nigeria, corruption is like a wasting disease. At the early stage, it is difficult to detect, but easy to cure.
But this is a government that you largely support. And from its manifesto, what it is promising Nigerians, it's stated categorically, apart from the fuel situation, which said it will stabilize and even improve when people were looking for towards a regime where the prices of petrol will actually drop. Another thing was to improve employment. They say that they would have improved employment by 20,000 jobs per state. That would total about 720,000 jobs. Yes. But people have lost jobs more than have gained employment, even under the even under the government's Empower program. If the government is losing more jobs than it is creating the jobs, then what would you say about the government that has made promises and is not keeping it?
Well, the problem is that the foundation for creating jobs will have to be well established. Until we reach that point, we're going to face these challenges. Part of the foundation of creating is power. I believe the government is making some effort. If you recall, I said the government actually found itself trapped in a lot of bad problems, bad economic problems. First of all, you have to find a way through the disorder, then begin the process. We're actually just starting the process of laying a foundation for genuine and organized economic. If you look at the last government, you're supposed to manage national economy based on budgeting. But we have a situation where there was nothing like budgeting. You just spend as you get, just like illiterates, with due respect. The whole essence of control of public resources to achieve certain ends was totally destroyed.
Is that the reason why the promised 20,000 jobs per state is not achievable?
Now, in the circumstances, you now get into government, the oil price fell, you didn't even have money, you still have to meet existing economic challenges, payment of salary, development efforts, and so on and so forth. So you've got to take one thing at a time. Before you can create jobs, you have to create economy. That's really the situation. And I think that the challenge the government faced was that, first of all, how do we create the economy? Part of the effort to create the economy is first of all to sanitize the oil sector, which forms the foundation. Not only